Welcome to this small series of reviews concerning Guanqin watches. I would like to start off with the most famous piece of all. This watch is the Guanqin GJ16034. It has gained quite a reputation because it comes with very nice specs. You get a sapphire crystal, you get a stainless steel case, you get an NH36 movement, and the bezel should be made of a tungsten carbide alloy. Now, what's the thing with tungsten carbide? Tungsten carbide is very hard material. It has industrial purposes, but you can also use it for jewelry. I will come back on that later on because there's might also be a downside to that, but yeah, that's something for later. First, the appearance of the watch is quite nice. It has a very subdued but nice sunburst in the black dial. The gold in the hour markers really springs to life. And what's also very nice is, this might not even be that noticeable at the moment, but oh yeah, there you say, there is a small gold ring on the inside of the bezel. And if you tilt the watch, then the gold shines through in the edge of the sapphire crystal, which is actually quite nice. So I really like the looks of this watch in that respect. Now, what I don't like as much is the white lume, the very light contrasting lume against the dark dial. And yeah, if I would come up with a name for this watch, I would call it the tux with the white socks, because it's like wearing white socks underneath a suit, a dark suit. It just doesn't look great. I like the shape of the hands. I also like how the hour markers are of a different size. So these are smaller and these are bigger, and so it goes around. Then, size-wise, this is quite a big watch. It's a 40 millimeter diameter, the case. The lug-to-lug of this watch is 50 millimeter. And if you have a small wrist, yeah, it really sits on it. But the thickness of the watch is 11 millimeters, and the lugs reach down quite a lot. So it doesn't wear that terrible, actually. Also, if you have smaller wrists like I have, my wrists have a circumference of 16 millimeters, 15 millimeters in cold weather. And of course it's big, yes, it's big, but there's a lot going on, and there are quite nice lines and curves in the watch itself. So I don't find these lugs very disturbing in how it looks on my wrist. And I give it a pass. I like wearing this watch. Now, problems I encountered with this watch, because there are some. And those have to do with the quality control for most. The quality control of this watch isn't splendid. This watch has a crown action that is quite stiff. And it gets better when you just pop out the crown for a bit, shove it in, and turn it a couple of times, then it gets loose. Now, what I suspect is the case is that there's always an O-ring on the stem, on the winding stem. And that O-ring gets pinched somewhere inside the tube. I don't know what the reason is, but I think that is the case. Now, eventually that can lead to some problems. The O-ring might get stuck and it might get wound around the stem itself. so that it gets more stuck. And I also have a Star King watch that had the same problem with the Myoto movement, and I actually had to take out the O-ring. And you can replace it, of course, but I'm not wearing that one that much and not in wet conditions, so I left it as is. But I wouldn't like to do it with this watch, actually. So, but it could be the case in the future. The other thing is I got another watch of this exact type, and it had quite a gap between the unevenly milled case and the bezel. It was such a wide gap that it was just not good looking at all, and I sent it back for these cosmetic reasons. Now this case also has a bit of a thing, because there is, I like to, oh, there it is, focus, please. There is a very small crack here, just above my nail, in the watch case, in the steel of the watch case. Now I guess it is only a cosmetic issue because the lugs are quite sturdy. But still, it is not really nice to have cracks like these in watch cases. So yeah, this watch comes with some issues. And mind you, it is the second watch I got. The first one I sent back. Now the clasp is actually quite alright. I did some filing on it to make the edges a little bit more soft to my skin. But yeah, for the price I paid for this, which was a whopping 32 euros, I can't complain about the strap or the clasp. The clasp is quite simple. It shuts, and that's what it is supposed to do. So, last thing I want to say about this watch is I want to talk about the bezel. The bezel is made out of a tungsten carbide alloy. Well, that doesn't say much. There are different alloys on the market for tungsten carbide. You have alloys with cobalt, and you have alloys with nickel. And as soon as you hear nickel and watch, most people think, okay, that's not good. Well, in this case, in the case with tungsten carbide, it actually is better than the cobalt because it doesn't leach out. The nickel stays in the tungsten carbide alloy, and therefore you won't be building allergic responses to the nickel itself. The other thing is that a nickel, a tungsten carbide containing nickel stays shiny and polished, whereas the cobalt version of tungsten carbide, well, it loses a little bit of its cobalt as it ages, so you might build an allergic response to cobalt. And the other problem is that it gets dull over time. It kind of corrodes. And as this is such a very hard material, you can only polish it with diamond paste and nothing else. And if you want to polish it, it takes a lot of effort. So yeah, I don't know what kind of tungsten carbide it is, but it might be, let's hope it's the nickel one and not the cobalt one. Let's put it that way. So that's what I had to say about this watch. I really like it. It also wears well. If you don't mind bigger watches on small wrist, then this might be a solution. Downsides, well, downsides and upsides are the bezel, the material of the bezel, the very wide lume on this very nice and dark dial, and some QC issues. That's it for now. Bye bye.